The Hull series in Star Citizen is all about one thing: moving cargo around the verse. And the Hull A gives a first glimpse as to what might be expected from the rest of the haulers, as they increase in size and ultimately as they're introduced to the game. So naturally, any aspiring trader will be interested to know, how does the Hull A perform in-game? I'm Forrester, and in this video we'll explore the answer to that question by reviewing the currently flyable MISC Hull A, which is described as a medium freight ship. If you've seen other reviews on this channel then, you probably know what to expect, with this video following the usual format. It's split into 5 sections, starting with a ship tour, assessing combat performance, reviewing handling and visibility, looking at the operating costs before finally summarising. As always, I've included timestamps in the video description in case you want to skip ahead. And if you're one of the many people watching who isn't yet subscribed to the channel, you might consider it, so you can be notified of future Star Citizen videos as they go live. Approaching from the port side of the Hull A, it's obvious that the cargo spindle is extended and full of cargo. There's a button on the airlock which opens it and deploys a ladder for ground access to the ship. In future, this airlock could also be used as a docking port. This enters into a section near the front of the ship. On either wall is component access, with small individually toggleable buttons to open the doors for each set of components. This is mirrored on both sides of the ship. On the starboard side there's also a suit locker, with a button to open and close the door. Moving rearwards through the ship, we enter into the habitation section. On the starboard side there's a weapons locker which can deploy in and out with the push of a button. There's also a small kitchen area in true MISC style. Neatly, there's also a fridge with a little button which opens the door. On the port side is a bed for players to log in and log out. And in the rear of the habitation section is a bathroom. Ignoring the lack of reflection in the mirror, there's a bathroom cabinet which allows players to open and close the door, as well as a shower-toilet combination. This is a MISC shower toilet, which lets you do both at the same time if you so choose. Moving towards the front of the ship, we pass the left or port side storage, which opens access to the ship's inventory. And moving right to the front of the ship, we enter into the cockpit bridge area, which has a single seat for the pilot to use. The console at the front is really nice with individual switches for lots of the ship functions. The Hull A is armed with 2 size 1 Bulldog repeaters on a turret on the nose. In-game at the moment, they can't be swapped, and there aren't any other weapons or missiles aboard. That's fairly limited firepower, but then again, this is a cargo hauler, so perhaps that's fair enough. The capacitors do regenerate fairly quickly after firing, which helps keep the Hull A in the fight. Defensively, the Hull A carries 2 size 1 shield generators, which is fair for a ship of this size. Put all of that together, and the Hull A can sort of put up a fight against smaller craft, especially AI that don't make the best use of their manoeuvrability. But for the most part, you'll probably want to escape combat rather than get drawn into it. Visibility in the Hull A follows a similar style to some of the other MISC ships, with a semicircular field of view, but not as narrow as some of those other ships like the Starfarer for example. So there's reasonable visibility out to the sides and up top, but a little less below the ship. Of note is the dashboard console that follows the flow of the front of the ship, which looks great. In terms of handling, the Hull A is unlikely to set any records. This is a cargo freighter, albeit a small one, and feels like it during flight. At high speed, the nose drops a little during flight, and at very high speeds up to the top speed of 1000 meters per second, the Hull A takes a long time to speed up and slow down. The ship feels heavy during turns, even with application of boost, and even at SCM speeds at around 100 meters per second. It's worth adding that sometimes the Hull A also suffers from being blown around in the wind, and that's especially noticeable when landed in a windy environment. It can be a little unsettling, although doesn't seem to do too much damage to the ship. The stock quantum drive is the Goliath, which is far too slow for a cargo hauler, but the quantum fuel stores are incredible, meaning that even with an upgraded quantum drive, you'll only rarely need to refuel the quantum stores on the Hull A, which potentially is great news for larger systems like Pyro in the future. Thankfully, the Hull A refuel and repair costs are very low, usually less than 1000 Alpha UEC, which is good, because if you're wanting to run cargo, you'll need to put a lot more Alpha UEC capital at risk to fill the 64 units of cargo storage. 64 SCU is enough to be able to turn a profit in the current patch, although other gameplay loops are likely to be more profitable. Other options are sort of available. You could choose to use the Hull A to move delivery crates, but the ladder isn't as user-friendly for doing so as some other ship choices. Likewise, the truly bold could use the Hull A to do combat contracts, but there are certainly better ship choices for doing so too. So the Hull A is mostly suited to moving cargo. In terms of loadout changes, I'd recommend swapping the quantum drive to a military grade drive like a beacon or siren simply for the speed, but for cargo hauling, I'd leave everything else just as stock. The Hull A offers a lot of creature comforts to the player. With headlamps up front, a bed for logging out securely, access to internal storage, an airlock and landing gear for different docking options, as well as a bathroom for that all-important space hygiene, space haulers have a lot to be excited about. The deployment mechanism of the spindle is cool, with a retracted position making the Hull A seem more aerodynamic and a harder target to hit, but with the extended position increasing the cargo storage capacity without having to unduly increase the profile. But that also signals when the Hull A is laden with goods, which, with the upcoming 3.18 patch likely to encourage more piracy, might not always be a good thing. In fact, the balance between having to heavily invest in buying cargo, the fairly mediocre profits from selling it, and the potential risk of losing it all means that cargo traders are a special breed in the verse at the moment. And the Hull A, whilst a nice environment for cargo haulers when compared to a freelancer for example, is also a little less versatile, with the more expensive freelancer offering multi-crew operations as well as more variety in other roles like combat, and a more natural cargo ramp for box delivery gameplay or ground vehicle transportation. But the Hull A is much cheaper, coming in at around $80 for pledge, whilst not yet available for Alpha UEC in-game at time of recording. That price makes the Hull A one of the cheapest ships with a reasonable storage capacity. That's not to say it's competitive with some of the larger ships, as cargo hauling profits seem to scale quite closely with cargo capacity, but as an entry-level cargo ship, it can still turn a profit. Moreover, the combination of being able to land planet-side as well as dock in space, coupled with the generous quantum fuel stores, could make for a nice reason to operate the Hull A. Sadly, the back of the ship is entirely inaccessible, seemingly just used to house the engines, but the ship overall makes me really interested to see the rest of the Hull series in the future, as the cargo storage capacity ramps up. The design of the ship is such that it's got a personality to it, which is saying something about a ship that's supposedly ubiquitous across the verse. But being locked into cargo trading gameplay somewhat limits the ability to recommend the Hull A. For most new players, a more versatile starter ship that lets them see more of the game would be a better choice, and for hardcore cargo haulers who are sure they want to move crates from A to B, only the budget conscious would be tempted to pick the Hull A over other options out there. That said, I'll be eagerly awaiting the in-game purchase price, as the Hull A might make for a really interesting stepping stone ship for those who would be cargo haulers upgrading from a starter ship, if the price is right. But what do you think of the Hull A? Would you pick one up in-game? I look forward to reading your thoughts in the video comments. As always, if you're not yet subscribed, you might consider it if you got this far, to give YouTube the nudge to suggest similar videos to you in the future. And it would also be really helpful to me if you would press that like or dislike button. Guide me as to what videos you're enjoying the most, so I can focus on making the most relevant videos in the future. Otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.